Have you ever felt like something was deeply wrong, yet convinced yourself it was normal? How many times have you justified someone's behavior simply because you cared for them? What if I told you that a significant portion of your emotional pain doesn't stem from what was done to you, but from what you've continued to tolerate? Not out of weakness, but because, somewhere along the way, you learned to call dysfunction love. This video isn't about blame, it's about clarity. Carl Jung didn't write to comfort, he wrote to awaken. Today we bring you a reflection grounded in Jung's most enduring psychological truths. These are not mere opinions. These are insights forged in the fire of the human unconscious. Jung believed that what we fail to make conscious will rule our lives, and we will call it fate. So if you don't become aware of what you've allowed in your relationships, you'll keep repeating it. In this video, we'll uncover 10 specific behaviors that Jung, through his deep understanding of the human soul, would never advise you to tolerate. This isn't just a video, it's a mirror. And maybe, just maybe, it's the invitation you didn't know you needed. Emotional manipulation. Disguised as love. When someone consistently makes you feel guilty for asserting your needs or boundaries, it's not love, it's emotional control. Jung taught that when the soul's truth is denied, it falls ill. And this illness begins when we compromise our identity to maintain connection. Over time, emotional manipulation erodes your self-trust, making you believe your boundaries are burdens rather than necessities. The more you allow this pattern to continue, the more disconnected you become from your own emotional truth, and from the courage to protect it. Emotional manipulation often mimics care, but it subtly rewrites your instincts and conditions you to associate love with discomfort. 2. Contempt masked as honesty. "I'm just being honest" is often the favorite phrase of someone delivering disguised cruelty. True sincerity is wrapped in compassion, not sharpness. Jung insisted that the personality needs affirmation, not erosion. Repeated contempt disguised as truth is a way to dominate, not connect. You don't grow from cruelty, you shrink. Contempt wounds the psyche in subtle, cumulative ways, often undermining your self-worth before you even notice it happening. It creates a power dynamic where criticism becomes the primary form of communication, replacing connection with correction. 3. Control packaged as protection. When someone limits your freedom in the name of caring, they may be projecting their own inner chaos. Jung described this as the shadow's way of asserting power. Genuine love doesn't confine you, it expands you. Control cloaked as care often stems from fear, not love, and reveals a deep insecurity, not protection. What may seem like concern can sometimes be a subtle way to limit your freedom and suppress your individuality. The cost is your autonomy, and slowly you stop recognizing the version of yourself that once felt free. 4. Gaslighting, the assault on your inner compass. Gaslighting is psychological warfare. It's when your reality is dismissed until you question your sanity. Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead to an understanding of ourselves. But if your emotional compass is consistently hijacked by another's version of reality, you're not being guided. You're being disoriented." Long-term gaslighting reshapes your identity until you no longer trust your own memory, emotions, or perception. It keeps you in a fog where you begin to rely on the abuser for your own truth. This form of control dismantles your confidence one perception at a time. 5. Dismissal of your inner world. You share a dream, a goal, a piece of your passion, and it's mocked or belittled. Jung emphasized the importance of integrating the authentic self. If your joy, your purpose, or your creativity is constantly devalued, what you're experiencing isn't partnership. It's spiritual suffocation. The soul cannot thrive in a space where your inner world is constantly invalidated. This dismissal leads to emotional erosion, where you silence yourself to avoid conflict or ridicule. Your desires don't just fade, they retreat into shame. 6. Chronic lack of empathy. Empathy is the bridge between souls. Jung knew that without it, no real intimacy can exist. If someone consistently overlooks your pain, invalidates your emotions, or turns your needs into inconveniences, you are not being loved. You are being drained. Lack of empathy forces you to shrink your emotional reality to preserve the illusion of connection. Over time, you may lose touch with your own needs, forgetting that they even deserve to be seen. A bond without empathy becomes a monologue, not a dialogue. 7. Repeated betrayal wrapped in apologies. When apologies become a cycle rather than a catalyst for change, you're not being respected. You're being managed. Jung pointed out that repeated behavior is never accidental. If someone continues to hurt you the same way, they're not struggling, they're choosing. A relationship built on apology, not accountability, is a trap, not a bond. These repeated betrayals numb your ability to trust, not just others, but your own boundaries. Eventually, you start confusing endurance with love. 8. Selfishness disguised as independence. It's one thing to be self-sufficient. It's another to use autonomy as a shield against emotional reciprocity. If you're always the one reaching out, initiating or making effort, it's not mutual. It's one-sided devotion, and Jung would call this a dysfunctional imbalance of energy. True independence honors the connection. False independence avoids responsibility. These relationships teach you to settle for crumbs while believing you're asking for too much. This dynamic often leaves you emotionally bankrupt, while the other feels entitled to your giving. Sarcasm as a weapon. Passive-aggressive humor may seem harmless, but it's often a cloak for hostility. Jung observed that what is unspoken becomes projected. Sarcasm can be a disguised resentment. If jokes feel like jabs, you're not being laughed with. You're being diminished. Sarcasm normalizes disrespect and conditions you to accept pain through laughter. Over time, you stop defending your dignity in the name of not overreacting. What's left is a slow erosion of your ability to feel emotionally safe in the relationship. 10. Emotional withdrawal as punishment. Withholding affection, ignoring messages, or going cold to assert control is not emotional maturity. Jung described such behaviors as a regression into shadow. When someone disappears instead of discussing, isolates instead of communicating, they are not protecting peace. They are punishing with silence. This emotional distance creates confusion and fear, where love should create safety. It often shows up as the silent treatment after a disagreement, unanswered messages for days, or coldness used as a tool to punish rather than resolve. These behaviors don't resolve conflict. They intensify the emotional disconnect and reinforce insecurity. The more you chase closeness, the more invisible you feel, and invisibility is emotional exile. Being ignored becomes a tactic, not an accident, and it fractures your sense of worth. Carl Jung didn't teach us to judge others. He taught us to recognize ourselves. And recognizing what you've been tolerating is not bitterness. It's the beginning of liberation. These 10 behaviors may feel familiar, they may even feel normal. But normal does not mean healthy. Every time you make excuses for what hurts, you're teaching your psyche to settle. And your soul is not here to settle. It's here to breathe. Healing starts with truth, with calling things by their name, with saying, this is not love, this is manipulation, this is not honesty, this is humiliation, this is not passion, this is chaos, and above all, this is not mine to carry anymore. You are not overreacting, you are awakening, and that's the beginning of everything. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect in the comments. Share your thoughts, your truth, or simply write, I choose clarity over chaos. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to Mental Dose. This channel is your space for deep reflection and emotional renewal. Your journey deserves a community that honors it. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video.